The Canadian Wild Turkey Federation presents
Turkey Talk
with your hosts, the guys that keep it real. From the Real Outdoor Experience, it's Carlin Riley and Ian McCleary. Stay tuned, folks. We discuss way more than just turkey hunting tips and tricks. If conservation, protection, and enhancement of the outdoors is important to you, you have come to the right place. It's go time.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Hi, everybody. It's Carlin and Ian from the Real Outdoor Experience. We are so thrilled to be with you today. It's Turkey Talk. We have Terry Smith, the president of the Wild Turkey Federation, on the line here, and this is all about Turkey Talk. So I can't say how much I'm thrilled because I'd be jumping up and down. You wouldn't be able to see me on the screen. I love turkey hunting. I love the Cwtf, and obviously I love the Real Outdoor Experience. So this is the perfect trifactor, whatever you want to call it, for me. So I'm not going to keep chatting your ear off here. I will introduce Terry. Terry Smith is a passionate outdoorsman. He does all kinds of things outdoors. And one of the things that I admire so much about Terry is that he gives so much of his time to the Cwtf so that people like you and I can go out and hunt turkey in all areas of Canada. Cwtf is super, super active. And they are doing all kinds of great things all over Canada. And I'll just leave it at that. Terry has been the president for 7 years now of the Cwtf. The Cwtf was established in 2014 when the NWTF left Canada. So without further ado, Terry Smith.
Well, thanks for joining us, Terry.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to hold this podcast today.
Thanks, Terry. So glad to have you here.
So, Terry, I know a lot of people out there are wondering about the Cwtf and how it started, and I know that you've been involved in turkeys and turkey hunting for about over 30 years. So how did you go from being interested in turkey hunting 30 years ago to being the president of the Cwtf?
Well, like I said, started turkey hunting 30 years ago down the States, and come to find out that there was a wild turkey organization in the States, and checked into it, and lo and behold, they had chapters up in Ontario, and they had just started a chapter here in 2000 in Canada. So that was the NWTF. Joined that and got involved as a local chapter and a district director here for Nova Scotia. And back in 2013, December 2013, the NWTF pulled out of Canada. And when they did, myself and Mike Holland from New Brunswick and another gentleman, we jumped in and basically took over and started the Cwtf because the kids and the women's programs and the stuff we were doing with habitat and conservation was extremely important. So we decided to keep that going.
Well, certainly appreciate the efforts of you and people like Mike Holland to get that going. I remember when I saw my first wild turkey in Ontario, I think it was in 1987, and it was in the Oro-Medonte region, just north of Barrie. And I'd never seen, I thought somebody had left a bag of garbage on the side of the road. Suddenly this big turkey stand, I didn't really know what it was. And, since then, seeing turkeys is so commonplace, but that wasn't like that until, I guess the wild turkeys in Ontario and pretty much the rest of Canada had been extirpated. And it was in the 80s that they started to be reintroduced. Now, was that initiatives pretty much solely by the various provincial ministries of natural resources, or was that more federations and groups that got that going?
Basically, what I know from back in the 80s, it was OFA and the NWTF. And basically, they came out of, the turkeys came out of Tennessee area. And there's still some active Cwtf members today that were part of those initial trap and transfers in the States to bring them birds up here over a number of years. And that's one of the biggest success stories with wild turkeys, especially the Easterns, bringing them from the States into Canada. And, we just got to thank those pioneers back in the 80s that did that, because we wouldn't be hunting turkeys in Ontario, Quebec, or maybe even out west if it wasn't for those guys.
All right. I would love to have the opportunity to shake some of their hands, because I think it's easy to forget that if it wasn't for those trap and transfer trades, because we were trading moose, I think, for to different states in return for turkeys and stuff like that. But what a success story for reintroductions! Like that's it's just brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I didn't have anything to do with it back then, but based on the pioneers that told me about it, Greg Balsh and Tom Howes up in Ontario, and they were involved in that with the OFA guys, and it was a huge success.
I'd love to see that one day where they using those, I think the rocket nets, where they put a bunch of feed out and a flock of turkeys comes in and, and then running in and grabbing the turkeys and stuffing them in a box and going and letting them go somewhere else. It doesn't seem like it should work, but it really has been a marvelous success story.
Well, we were on a call last Thursday with the Alberta Fish and Game, and there was a couple of other groups there. It was a 2-hour phone call with regards to trapping and transferring wild turkeys, and Alberta's, potentially looking at some more trap and transfers. Manitoba's been really active the last number of years with releasing and trapping and transferring wild turkeys in the Manitoba area, and we've got some support out of the guys in the States with regards to supplying us trap and transfer boxes, which was donated from the NWTF in the States, which was great. And, hopefully we'll be moving birds in some other provinces in the near future.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. How has COVID been impacting, you personally? We chatted, and I know you and your family have been doing okay, but from the CWTF perspective, what's been the impact?
The COVID's been it's hit us really hard with regards to our banquets and our fundraisers and our social gatherings and our getting our kids and our women's programs out there to hunt together or teach wild turkey hunting. Fishing derbies have been postponed. Anything to do with basically habitat conservation projects have been postponed. And in turn, that all leads back to our fundraisers, to our banquets. And with not holding any banquets, only 2 in 2020, and they were both record-breaking banquets, which was looking really good. It's really put a dampening on the fundraising. We had to lay our 2 full-time staff off that we had hired. And myself, I'm a volunteer as a president, been so since day one, and will always continue as a volunteer. So, we're running some raffles. We got some raffles coming up. We got our online store. We encourage anybody to go online and take advantage of the $25 Bass Pro gift card when you sign up for a $35 one-year membership to the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. And that's Bass Pro has been a huge supporter of the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation here in Canada.
That's something. Sorry, Carlin, go ahead.
That's all right. Are there other things that people can do to support the CWTF other than participating in draws and memberships?
It's we got some chapters, and we're looking at implementing those chapters and getting some more volunteers involved with the chapters. There's even people want to sponsor their sponsor memberships if they want to go that much further to help support the CWTF. We're looking at growing our national committee across Canada and adding to the board of directors. And, we feel that we're going to come out of this COVID after 2021 into 2022 a lot stronger than we were going into it. And I think the future looks really bright for us because, we weren't sitting on a lot of product when COVID hit. So we were prepared that, we didn't go and spend all our money on banquet product and be sitting on that. So
that the membership, I guess, cost to an individual, at $35, and then you get a $25 gift card at Bass Pro to go and get your mask or a new box of shells. What turkey hunter is not going to be able to spend $25 at Bass Pro? But for $10 to be a member of the CWTF, that's just it's such a fantastic deal. No question about that.
Exactly. And we got some specials coming up with raffles. We're going to hold here in February and March. Do a membership drive, so you'll see a lot more advertising on our social media, and that's directly to CWTF. And CWTF has pages for every province in Canada as well. And any questions, you can send them to me or send them to you guys, and we'll be more than happy to discuss them or discuss proposals or supporting each other.
You had said that you were in the midst of maybe looking at expanding your either your board of directors or How can people, like your average guy out there, if they want to get involved in the CWTF or, help in an individual province, what would be the appropriate steps for them to take right now?
If they want to send me an email or even a private message on Facebook here, and we get a hold of them and have a discussion, and just like the guys from Alberta did the other day, they want to discuss trapping and transferring birds and what information we had, and was there any previous reports around, and any types of information. So myself and today as our in-house biologist, he's out of Montreal, and he's a volunteer as well. So that just get a hold of us, and we'd be more than happy to push forward. And we got Chris Clark and Gordy Peak as well on the board. So any of them guys, get a hold of them, and we'd be more than happy to bring people on and discuss opportunities with the CWTF.
Now, Terry, one of the things that we are so passionate about is helping others outdoors. That's really what we're all about, and that's exactly what the CWTF is all about. So on those lines, where would you direct people, or what would you suggest to people if they wanted to get involved in programs like Women Like Us and Kids Like Us?
Right now, we'll be sending an email to myself, tsmith@cwtf.ca, or a private message, and we could redirect them to the local chapters in them areas. Right now, we have 22 chapters across Canada. Some of them chapters are very active. Other chapters, they stuck a flag in the ground and say, "Hey, we have a chapter here. We're going to develop it over the next year or two as CWTF can support it and grow." And like I said, we've been here for 7 years, and we're growing. We plan on eventually being a minimum 50 chapters across Canada with anywhere up to 10,000 members. So the future's bright for the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation.
No, that's fantastic.
Awesome.
Oh, I think that there's a bit of a misconception out there that the CWTF is strictly for turkey hunters, but you guys have done an awful lot for food plot seeding and planting apple trees and river restorations. Tell us a little bit more about what those activities look like.
Yeah, we have some of our chapters right from BC to we chapter in St. John's, Newfoundland, and they do stuff from raising funds with regards to guns and raffles. And we bring in seed where we can get it from the local co-ops or local dealers to deal with it. We have a couple of partnerships with seed companies in Ontario that give discounted rates to food plot seeds, turkey plot seeds. We've done habitat restoration projects, stream development projects where we've donated money to directly enhance the stream, give farmers corn, for instance, to plant it. And at the end of the day, leave us 2 or 3 acres for the wildlife. So the deer and the bear and the pheasants and the grouse and everything else is benefiting as well from that. So, and we had a couple of other programs where we brought in 1,000 apple trees, resold them, and had people putting them in the ground, planting them. And, so the deer, the grouse, the pheasants, everything, benefits from those. And there's been a couple of projects in Ontario where they planted high bush shrubs and other types of bushes that would be great for nesting for the wild turkeys.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that Newfoundland has got chapters and is growing as much as it is. They don't have a turkey there.
Well, no, there was actually turkeys in Newfoundland.
Okay.
There's turkey. It's the second question. I seen a question come through today on CWTF where someone said, "How could you have a chapter in Newfoundland? There's no turkeys there." Well, there's a flock of turkeys in Quadroy Valley, Newfoundland. I think there were pen released or tame birds that were released over 20 years ago. And they've actually taken hold and they're surviving.
Okay.
And, so the big thing with the chapter in Newfoundland is they do outdoor shows, and they were getting ready this year to hold a banquet, and COVID basically stopped it. And I'm based here in Nova Scotia, and we don't have turkeys here either. But you mentioned the CWTF banquet, and we'll fill it with 200 people or 150 people, and there'll be 25, 30, 40 kids at it, and every kid wins prizes, wins hats, wins turkey calls, wins crow calls. Deer blinds, could be duck hunting blinds, duck decoys. There's always something for the kids. That's the most important part.
Yeah, well, that's you guys really do a great job of recruiting, and introducing the new kids to the sport. And it's a good segue actually to the Hoot and Shoot program. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the Hoot and Shoot originally started when the NWTF was here in Canada. And we took the initiative here in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick to launch it. And we took that program down to Maine, where we took kids from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Basically, we were waiting to transfer turkeys into Nova Scotia. New Brunswick already had turkeys, and we're hoping for a season. The season wasn't happening. So we got tired of waiting for the turkeys to come to us. So we took the kids to the turkeys. We took them to Maine, which is the closest spot from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, which is 4 hours for some people. It's 8 hours for some other people. And brought them down there, and it's a Kids Like Us Hoot and Shoot Wild Turkey Youth Camp. And I think we're going into year 8 this year, and been a phenomenal event. And we bring anywhere from 10 to 12 kids, and bring one of their parents with them. They have to be there. And to watch kids shoot their first turkeys, watch kids see their first turkeys, hear the first turkey that they've never seen or heard them, and to have a kid, anywhere from 10 to 12, 15 years old, shoot their first turkey before their father has even hunted one. It's pretty remarkable because that goes against the grain, because you take a kid out deer hunting, most parents have shot 8, 10, 15, 20 deer, whatever it is. But to have the kids shoot the turkey first before their parents ever even hunted them is pretty remarkable experience.
It sounds very similar to our Yoda program, and I'll toot our horn a little bit because it's such a great program for people to get out and take their kids for the day. And last year we had a lady and she brought her kids out, and she caught her very first fish that day. And I'm not sure if she was more excited that she caught the fish or that her kids were catching fish that day, but it's a day about fun and being in the outdoors together. And the hoot and shoot is just, a reminder of why these events are so, so important. And, I would strongly recommend anybody that has kids or, has the talent to pass on knowledge, to get involved in these programs. It doesn't matter what province you're in. There's programs of all sorts and types. But just get involved, because the legacy of the outdoors is so, so important.
Yeah, so Carlin, the hoot and shoots are a great event. And like you talked about the fishing stuff and that lady having a great experience and, so excited to be around the fishing event as well. And we're holding hoot and shoots in Ontario. We've held several there with chapters, especially the Delhi one. We had Mark from Go Hunt Birds. He held one out in the Peterborough area. And they're a great event. Tom Howe has been involved on his property and his land where he was, and they held a bunch of hoot and shoots. And I believe we had the ladies hold the first annual hoot and shoot, or it got canceled last year, but there's talks about it happening this year. And those hoot and shoot events are amazing. It just gets people outdoors, whether they're 10 or 12 years old or they're first time turkey hunters at the age of 70.
Circling back to the what Carlin was saying about the our Yoda event, one of the cool things that was I hadn't really anticipated, but was seeing how many moms were there with their kids, because perhaps there isn't a dad or a man in the picture that typically would take kids hunting or fishing as they're growing up. But I think that there is a recognition out there that there is an awful lot of kids that want to get involved in the outdoors, but they don't have somebody to take them. And it is because of things like the hoot and shoot and, frankly, Yoda, that gives that opportunity for people to do that. So I don't know, I keep going with the hoot and shoot. And again, if anybody that's listening, if that's something that they want to start, or if they've got a piece of property and they want, maybe to introduce kids to turkey hunting on it, how could that be arranged?
No, exactly. They can get a hold of us, once again, private message or email me. And with regards to the hoot and shoot, there was one year we'd taken a bunch of kids down to Maine to hunt deer, because the legal limit here in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick is 16, and down there it was 10. So, we actually brought kids down there to hunt deer that were 14, 15, that couldn't do it here. So it worked out great. They didn't shoot any deer, but they've seen a bunch and had a great time. And, it's, and we've done a bunch of other stuff with regards to some of the chapters, right, to bear seminars, how to hunt bears, ladies hunting bears, how to do trapping seminars. We got kids events where they're going out hunting squirrels, and it's all about teaching the kids the proper safety and etiquette when you're in the woods, and that's what it's all about.
No, that's fantastic.
Terry, if you were looking for people with specific skills to assist the CWTF, do you have a shopping list out there?
I'm sure there's great volunteers out there that are maybe sitting back and especially in COVID times, that don't have a lot to do or whatever. But, as the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation, we're a not-for-profit Canadian organization. We're run by local guys here. We're run by local people here in Canada. It's all Canadian 100%. So the money stays in Canada. And, our whole goal is to keep the money here, give it out. And at the end of the day, don't have any money because we gave it to the kids, or gave it to our chapters, or gave it to other not-for-profits to help those wildlife groups or whatnot, right? But yeah, anybody with some not-for-profit volunteering experience, or somebody that's just wants to make a change or make something different out there, we're able to sit down and talk to them over Zoom or whatever, and see what they have to offer. Because there's a lot of people with that great outdoor passion that they just don't have the the lines of communications to say, hey, I want to help, or I want to help with a chapter, or I want to get on a committee, or I want to help the kids, or, it could be a person that's saying, I can help get sponsors for your organization, or I help get, other businesses involved with the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation because of what you're doing, your advertising, your support. I think other businesses would do well by, teaming up with the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation.
Absolutely.
Such a great point. And that's, anybody's welcome to reach out to me, and I can, Ian at ianmccleary.com or on Facebook. I can make sure that message point gets to the CWTF. And, Carlin, I know that you'd be willing to do the same. And you mentioned something again, Terry, that I can't stress enough how important it is that message gets out there. Your payroll today is zero.
It's zero. Yeah. We laid everybody out back in March.
Well, and everybody, there was only one or two that were actually sort of paid by the CWTF. It's a volunteer and totally not for profit organization. Like every cent that is collected through banquets or, raised through memberships or raffles just goes right back into the programs and right into the hands of, the kids. And it just, what a great message.
Exactly. And as we come out of COVID, we'll get Chris Hire back and maybe even Rob Hire back. And they're basically running banquets. They're setting them up. They're working with the committees and the chapters and organizing product and wheeling and dealing. And they have a really hard job. A week before the banquet, they're working 100 hours. And and if you look what they were getting paid, it's only peanuts for what they're doing. And we can get up to we got 22 chapters here now, but a lot of them just have flags in the ground. We can get up to 30 chapters holding banquets and them all making money. It'll be great because we'll be writing checks for organizations like yourself, the Yoda event, and other wildlife groups, and sponsoring trap and transfers and sponsoring other hoot and shoots right across the country. That's what we want to do. And we can go to a farmer and say, hey, here's corn seed to plant 200 acres, and at the end of the day, here's $10,000 because we want you to leave 20 acres corn standing, for the deer this winter. That's win-win for everybody because the turkeys will be in there, the pheasants, the deer, the grouse. The raccoons and bears, they got to eat too, so they're going to be in there as well. So,
Oh, that's such a great point. So, if Terry, and this is something I don't know, even perhaps if you know the answer, but in Ontario, when you start getting into the Canadian Shield area and it's kind of the mid to northern Ontario, turkeys are starting to push forward a little bit. You're starting to see them just where you would not have seen them 10 years ago. But if there are areas where typically there aren't turkeys now, but people want to either start a chapter or, get 10 or 15 turkeys released in an area, what does that look like? Is that more of sort of an Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources decision, or is that something the CWTF can help with, or where do people go?
Well, right now we could be involved with some of the communications part of it. So in Ontario, it would have to go through the Ontario Ministry, or maybe even OFA in Ontario as well. But CWTF could be involved with something like that. And in Manitoba, I know it's the Manitoba Wildlife Association that's involved with a lot of the trapping and transfer. Quebec is no longer doing any trap and transfers. And with talking about turkeys expanding and people wanting to get more involved, you'll have New Brunswick, for instance, where the turkeys are now coming in for the last 15 years from Maine and coming in from Quebec. And now they're looking at holding their first spring 2021 wild turkey season. It was supposed to be last spring. It got postponed because of COVID, and it's looking really positive for holding that turkey season this spring. And hopefully Minister Holland will have an announcement here shortly on that.
That's got to be a pretty good feeling for you when you're driving down the road and you look out into a field and you see turkeys out there and, see a tom strutting and like knowing that like you did that.
Well, it's when it comes to CWTF, and like you say, you'll have lots of people saying, yeah, Terry, you did this, you did that. And the way I look at it is we're one big team. There's at the end of the day, it's our chapters, it's our supporters, it's our volunteers. It's the guy that doesn't know me that sends me a message saying, I just seen 10 turkeys in the field. I can't believe I just seen my first turkeys. And he's going through northern New Brunswick summers. And, at the end of the day, we'd have the chapters and support and strong volunteers and support like yourselves would be nothing. The CWTF would be nothing. So, I got to give hats off to all the volunteers that have worked hard to get us to where we are today, because it's been a lot of work, a lot of volunteer stuff, but we have a lot of great chapters, and we want to continue to grow that and grow our membership and be here for the future as one of the, we'll say, one of the great not-for-profit Canadian organizations, right? So
So when it comes to if somebody wants to sign up and get their annual membership, I know that we generally do it just at the Sportsman Show because we're standing right there. But how would somebody listening to this today go ahead and do that?
Well, they can actually go online at www.cwtf.ca, or you can go on our Facebook page, CWTF, and click the links there and get online and buy your membership and get your Bass Pro card. That's what I'd recommend. And that's where our support's coming at now. We're going to be holding some raffles coming up where you'll be able to get a membership with regards to the raffle, so you can do a combined purchase when you go to do that. And we also recommend that we got 4 issues of our magazine. I'll just hold that up here, producing our 5th one right now. But there's a lot of great information in these magazines, and they're available now online for free. So go on and download the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. First 3 copies are free. I think the 2021 is free as well. And the big thing with the 2021, it's got a lot of great information here. We're growing chapters, as well as our financials. We got all our financials in here. We got all our volunteer hours. So when you start looking at the volunteer hours charts, for instance, I got 1,200 hours volunteering for 1 year. The next year, 1,100 hours. The next year, 1,200 hours in 2019 volunteering. So when you start looking at that stuff, all the information's in here. If you got any questions, you can get a hold of us. And there's one of our big sponsors right here. And we really appreciate Bass Pro and what they're doing. And one other thing with Bass Pro, they just sponsored the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation to do a West Nile study on grouse in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And we just got a bunch of samples in from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick this past fall. So today and Amanda McDonald, PhDs, they're putting the report together, and it will be with regards to West Nile and rough grouse in Atlantic Canada.
I took part in that last year. This year, just because of geography and frankly spending so much time in quarantine, I did not grouse hunt once. But the year before, I sent in 10 samples. What a cool idea, being able to just take a blood sample of a grouse when you harvest it and send it off to, I think it was in Peterborough that we were sending them off to. So super easy and kind of fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, and last year and the year before, we did Ontario and Quebec wild turkeys with West Nile, and part of those studies they're written up in our magazines here now, and you can get that information online or on our website. And it's just, people just think we're the Wild Turkey Federation, we're all about turkeys, but we're about grouse, woodcock, habitat conservation, preservation, whatever we can do to help the great, the environment, the great outdoors here and the wildlife that we support.
Yeah, it sounds like conservation first. Now, you said just a second ago you did 1,200 hours of volunteer last year. That's 100 hours a month. That's 25 a week. Taking off Saturdays and Sundays. That's still an additional 5 hours a day on top of your regular work day. Those are amazing numbers, Terry. How long? You've been doing that for a while. How long are you going to be able to keep doing that at that pace?
Well, first thing, Ian, there's no days off. Saturday and Sunday, that's when you get a lot of turkey calls. And they don't call me Turkey Terry for nothing. So, it's all part of who I am and what I'm doing and trying to get the message out there. I have the time. I got some other business on the go, but, turkey hunting and the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation is my passion. And to explain to someone what turkey hunting is all about, unless they actually go and do it, they'll never understand. So when they get to go on the hoop and shooter, you take them under your wing and take them hunting, and once they have that experience, it's just there's no words can describe it. And my phone it rings nonstop. There's calls, there's messages, and some days it's 12 hours a day nonstop turkey talk. And that's why sometimes you're in the deer blind, you're texting about turkeys and CWTF, and someone wants to start a chapter, or someone's asking questions about where do I get a hat, and it's all good. But you know what?
I'm messaging you, Terry, because I know that I contribute to a large part of that busyness.
And you ask how people can help. Well, if I could clone myself, it would be great. But you know what? There's other volunteers out there that, if we get those guys on board to come here and help, and that are as passionate about wild turkeys as myself and Chris Clark and Gordy Peak, and today is it would be awesome, because there's in yourselves, you guys are passionate about what you're doing for the kids and the women in the outdoors and wild turkeys and everything else out there. So it's just a matter of putting a plan together and getting everybody at the same table and moving this thing forward.
It really is about collecting or being a collective of like-minded outdoors people, women, kids, and men alike, and trying to, I guess, harness the synergy of all of these groups combined and just keep that legacy of the outdoors going. And there's so many different ways that people can get involved, and the CWTF is obviously a really great avenue for that because of all of your conservation efforts across the board. Doesn't matter what species it is.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to conservation, there's no such thing as a competition with organizations. So whether it's Ducks Unlimited, Delta, there's SCI, there's QDMA, there's local wildlife groups, and we support everybody. The guys from the Delta chapter will call me looking for a donation. Yeah, I'll give you a couple of CWTF hats and a free membership or something, and they'll give us something from their product line. And it's give and take. And when you're talking conservation, habitat, and getting youth and kids outdoors, we're all on the same page. We all need to stick together and work through this. So
I think one of the biggest elements that all those groups have in common is the conservation focus. And that's, a hunter is a conservationist with a rifle, but it's always conservation first.
Well, there's, when it comes to conservation, habitat and conservation, and it's, whether you're planting food plots for wildlife, and that could be turkeys, deer, you could be pheasant habitat, and then all of a sudden you're planting shrubs or you're leaving winter rye growing so that the turkeys and the deer fawns can survive in there in the summertime, because the coyotes don't like going through them areas, or the bobcats don't like hunting through high grass. It's all goes hand in hand, and that's what we try to teach. So when someone comes to my property and they say, can you show me a fawn in June? I'll take you for a walk and show you a deer fawn, because there's proper habitat planted for them. I know they're going to be in there, and it's no different than turkey poults or pheasant chicks. If you plant the right stuff and give the right message out there, and more people are doing stuff in their backyard, even if they only have 8 or 10 acres, they're putting little food plots in, and they're planting apple trees, and they're putting shrubs in to protect the grouse or the pheasants or the turkeys when they're nesting, and it's win-win for everybody. I
like the thought of going for a walk in your property, but it's not going to be a fawn I'm going to want to come and look for.
It's going to be daddy.
Well, I still got my buck tag in my pocket, so I had tag soup this year, but that's all right. He'll be bigger next year.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
If somebody does want to start a chapter, like if they're in an area, I guess before they start a chapter, they should see if there is a chapter locally that they should join. But presuming they've done that research and there's nothing within an hour of their town, where would they start? What would be your words of wisdom or recommendation to them?
So what we recommend, if somebody wants to start a chapter, is get a group of 4 or 5 like-minded people like themselves together that want to do habitat conservation, help youth and help turkey hunters out and do stuff for the community. And if you got 4 or 5 people, we have a chapter agreement that we send. You sign it up, and we're off to the races. You pick your name, open your bank account, and at that point, it's either you communicate with me or Chris, or it could be today's or Gordy as well. But so if there's we just signed up a couple of new chapters here this year with COVID, and they're looking at getting off the ground with their first banquet. They're pretty excited, and as soon as we get rid of this COVID-19, we'll be off to the races. And like I say, they can go to our website, CWTF, or go on Facebook and message us. And and sometimes some of the messages takes a few days, whatever, to get back to, because when you're dealing with volunteers, there's nobody getting paid to do this stuff. So sometimes it can take a little bit of time to get back to you. And but definitely we plan on growing and expanding, especially in 2022. We're going to be ready for that expansion.
I think that there's going to be the record, or the turnouts at the banquets in 2022 will be it'll be fantastic. I know that there's an awful lot of people that are going to want to get out to the Delhi chapter and get that fried chicken dinner again. I know I've been missing that for too long, that's for sure. But I guess getting out and taking part in a banquet aside, starting a chapter and really just getting community awareness is probably the biggest focus, right?
That's the biggest thing. And like I say, if there's chapters close by or even an hour away, they're more than happy to affiliate and help out. Like when you're holding your first banquet, you get chapter committee people going from that one chapter over to help the new chapter out. When you're doing a hoot and shoot, both chapters go and help each other out and vice versa. So there's a lot of synergy there with the people that that we deal with. And, I always say there's turkey hunters and there's deer hunters, and not every deer hunter turkey hunts, but every turkey hunter deer hunts. And it's just, I use the analogy, I think we talked about before, that if you got 180 class deer on your farm, you don't even tell anybody, right? You don't even tell your best buddy that big buck is there. But if you got 50 turkeys, you're on the phone, you're text messaging, you're putting it on Facebook, I got 50 turkeys. Take the kids over, take your wife over, let's go hunting turkeys, and you hunt them from the first day to the last day. It's just, the turkey hunters are like a different breed of people. It's so giving, and they want to support and help, and just that amazing bird, right? It's just remarkable.
It's funny you mention that. I was hunting a turkey last year, and COVID. So I'm in my little blind, and I shot a nice tom, and I walk out of my blind, and it was a little bit misty that morning, and I looked to my left, and there was a blind out in the middle of the field, just past the fence line. So different property, hunting, a different guy, obviously. And as soon as I shot my bird, this guy gets out of his blind. I've never met him before. He comes over and he says, "Hey, congratulations." And, we had a great conversation out in the field. I'd never met this gentleman before, but we shared different turkey stories, and he was happy that I took my bird, and I was happy that I took my bird. And it's just, it was refreshing, I guess, that, he's not yelling at me for hunting the same property, which it wasn't. But you're right, Terry, the turkey hunters are different people. And I'm so thankful to be part of that group.
Yeah, if that was a 170 class buck that you would have shot, it might have been a different story.
Might have been, yes.
Or if you'd taken your, it was a bit of a pot shot at 75 yards as it heading towards his decoy spread,
yes, exactly.
would have been a little bit different. But I do think that the turkey hunting community does seem to be more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking, collaborative, and more encouraging of each other versus being territorial.
No, definitely. And it's like, even the turkey community, for us, it's North American wide. So we got all these turkey hunters in the States that want to know what's going on in Canada. They're following us, they're watching what we're doing, and we have access to biologists in the States. So when we're working with, DERL up in New Brunswick government, the DNR division up there, talking about the new turkey season they have, and the lottery, and how many birds should we take, and where should we harvest? That's big stuff, because we have biologists here in Canada, but it's good to hear from the guys that are with the 40 years, with 40 years experience as a biologist, just a turkey biologist, and they've been big support to us here in Canada. And if we have an issue tomorrow with turkeys, or someone has a question, I can pick up the phone and call someone down in New York or down in Florida or wherever, and speak to them about wild turkeys. It's pretty amazing.
It's fantastic to have that kind of resources available. People in Canada, I don't think we realize how good we have it when it comes to turkey hunting. We really don't. Like, I've hunted in Ontario and Quebec, and the provinces are so big. There's so much geography and so many birds, but they're not pressured birds. They're not necessarily educated birds. Like, hunting in the States is very, very different than what it's like in Ontario. And I don't know, having hunted in the States, in New York, numerous times for the past bunch of years, it's a different hunt in Ontario and Quebec, and that's I'm not surprised that there's a lot more attention from our U.S. counterparts that want to come up and hunt, because it's so good when it comes to hunting.
Yeah, they're catching on in the States now. Is that Ontario is one of the biggest success stories in trap and transfer in North America, and the birds in Ontario are big birds. It's not uncommon to see 25-pound turkeys in Ontario. So the U.S. counterparts down there, and a lot of friends of mine, they want to come up to Canada to hunt birds. And that's where, as well, the Cwtf is launching the Canadian Slam, and we're also launching the North American Grand Slam for turkeys. So you'll see that in the next online magazine that's being produced and should be ready to hit the street here in 2 weeks' time. And it'll be our 5th edition of our Canadian Strutter magazine, and pretty proud of being able to be part of that magazine and helping put that together. And like I say, that's all volunteer too, except for the editor and the guy that puts it together. We contract him out, but he does a great job. So
yeah,
well, we're very proud to be part of that magazine on a much smaller scale than you, obviously. But and thanks for having us on there. One of the things you mentioned was the Canadian Slam. So does that mean that you have to shoot an Eastern and a Merriam, and or is that provincial, or how does that all work?
Right now, we're just looking at the Eastern and the Merriam. So right now, you can shoot one either on Ontario or Quebec right now as an Eastern. And Manitoba would be a Merriam, and Alberta and BC would be Merriams. Right now, we can only hunt as a non-resident in BC and Ontario and Quebec. Alberta's got a lottery system on the go there now, but like they're talking about moving some birds. And Manitoba is resident only, but their population's really growing and expanding, and hopefully there'll be some non-resident lottery tags there in the near future. So it'll open up some more hunting, and so it's and New Brunswick as well. They're coming out with their lottery for locals, and hopefully within the next 2 to 3, 4 years there'll be a non-resident New Brunswick wild turkey tag, and it'll be amazing to go to New Brunswick and hunt turkeys in the morning and spring bears in the evening. It's one of those combinations. Maybe one of the only spots in North America you would ever see it.
That's magic. I've shot a turkey in Quebec in the morning and then gone over to Ontario and shot a turkey in the afternoon.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to do. Funny with the slams, because the Grand Slam is Gould's, Merriam's, Eastern, and Osceola in Florida, right? And then if to get the Royal Slam is it the Gould's in? No, there's the Rio Grande in.
Yes,
as part of that
Texas
Grand Slam, and then the Royal is having the Gould's gobbler, right?
Yeah, there's the Royal, and then there's the Oscillated as well. So there's the Grand Slam, the Grand Slam. There's the Royal Slam. I don't know if there's another slam or not. That's
I think it's the World Slam. That's got that oscillated in like Belize or something like that. It's kind of the blue turkey, right?
Yeah, they hunt them in the Yucatan Peninsula. I know the Oscillated ones is the Yucatan Peninsula. I know they opened up their season today. And I've seen a bunch of pictures of successful hunts there. So,
those are crazy birds, eh?
What we're trying to do here is a North American Grand Slam. So if you already got your Grand Slam, you come to Canada and get your 2 birds, and you get the North American Grand Slam. We'll register it, give you a certificate, and go from there. So it's one thing that we can highlight and give back to our members and our people that are supporting us. It's just one way to, and plus it's going to grow our organization, because there's a lot of turkey hunters in the States that want to come to Canada to turkey hunt. And we'll be more than happy to have them come to Canada, whether it's Quebec or Ontario or BC, and support the outfitting industry. And a lot of guides, make a living off that. And once this border opens up, they're going to need every bit of the support for the outfitting industry, guides, and all the local hunting shops.
And it's a great message too. I mean, Ontario and Quebec have such vast amounts of public land that non-residents can come in, buy a non-resident license to hunt turkey, and can hunt public land like very, very easily. But going through an outfitter would make their jobs a whole lot easier for sure. Yeah,
especially if they only have 2 or 3 days to hunt, and you got some of these big outfitters in Ontario and Quebec that are doing amazing jobs, and they're putting guys on birds that are coming up out of the States, and even Canada. Like, you take guys from Canada, even Nova Scotia, going to Ontario or Quebec to hunt, and the Ottawa area has some amazing turkey hunting. And if it's your first turkey hunt, definitely recommend a guide. Go in and learn what he's doing, get him to teach you what he's doing, and sometimes maybe 2 or 3 hunts you hunt with that same guide to get the experience, because unless you can go scout and roasting birds at night and get the permission of landowners, but there's a lot of private land or government land as well, crown land. Support your outfitters and get out there and enjoy the outdoors. That's what it's all about. And take a kid with you and really enjoy it.
That's
Terry. Sorry. Go ahead, Carlin.
Thanks, Ian. That's an interesting point you made there, Terry. Turkeys, my own experience with turkeys is I started really green, and I've been a deer hunter forever, and thought, oh, turkeys, I see them everywhere. You see them walking down the street in the city, and how hard could it be? But if you're a first-time turkey hunting, turkey hunter, and you're listening to this, go out and do some research, or find a guide or an outfitter, then somebody that, or a mentor, that somebody that you can go with. It can be frustrating, and just do your research and get out there with somebody that knows a little bit about turkey hunting. Anyways, it's such a great experience, and it's a great experience with taking your kids or friends or buddies or whatever. But it can be very frustrating.
Yeah, we have one of our chapters there in London. It's Brian Squires is the president there. I think you guys are aware of Brian, and I think he's taken out a group of people mentoring older adults there in the last year, and I think he plans on doing the same thing this year. So it's win-win. He's teaching people how to turkey hunt and get outdoors, and it's win-win for everybody.
Brian's a giver, no question about that. And I think the opportunity for people to get out and be with somebody that's done it before is your learning curve is going to be dramatically different than if you're just trying to put it all together by yourself. But check out the Real Outdoor Experience Introduction to Turkey Hunting for Beginners, another shameless plug. That'll get people on the right track. But that's it. I know it took me 3 years just hunting basically on my own for the first 2. And then finally hunting with a buddy that kind of went, you know what, this is like, you've got all the ingredients, but you're putting them together wrong. And as soon as I changed up a lot of the things that I was doing, bam, I got a turkey in my lap. And I know Carlin, it's pretty much exactly the same story. Just, it's a difficult thing to just pick up and say, I want to do this. And it's not like grabbing a worm and a bobber and going and catching the sunfish. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah, no, and like I say, turkey hunting is one that if you can get a mentor, get a supporter, hire a guide, contact one of our local Cwtf chapters in Ontario or Quebec, or even out west to support and take you out hunting and show you how to scout for turkeys, what to look for, how to roast, where to set up the next morning. If you can shoot a turkey or have that experience and hearing them gobbling and watch them strutting, sometimes you don't even need to pull the trigger, and the experience is amazing. So,
anyway, some of my favorite hunts have been watching little kids harvest turkeys. That's what a feeling. Hey, you mentioned a minute ago that a big turkey is 25 pounds, and I personally have had my hands on probably 50 or 60 turkeys, and I think the biggest one was about 24 and a half. Now, I've heard of 2 turkeys in Ontario that were in like the 38-pound range. I'm skeptical. And
those dump birds?
Well,
were they eating like steroid corn feed, or what?
Have they been? I started thinking about it when you mentioned the flock in Newfoundland that was tame birds that got out. Are those likely farm raised birds, or can an eastern wild turkey actually get that big?
No, they're eastern wild turkeys, and they were, I think, pen raised and released, and they were looked after basically and probably fed during the winter, and then they took off. The flocks did, right? And going back to the size of turkeys, it's I seen 2 one day. Guy invited us over, and one was 25 pounds and the other was 29 pounds. And the 25-pound turkey looked like a jake, and that was down in Connecticut. They were huge turkeys, but that 29-pound bird, he was massive. I killed a few 25, lots in the 24s. But they're big turkeys, right? And now when you start coming up closer to the eastern states, like Maine and those sort of things, some of the birds aren't as big because they're mountain birds and you're hunting them in the woods, and they can be like 21, 22 pounds, but they still gobble the same, and they're still smart as a 25-pound turkey. So.
No, I have a question out of personal interest. Is there any kind of momentum to get Merriam's into the eastern provinces at all?
No, if whatever would happen here right now, we got eastern turkeys in New Brunswick, and based on information we have and the studies we've done and the people that we have working in New Brunswick on this stuff, there's anywhere between 5,000 and 8,000 eastern wild turkeys there. Eastern wild turkey is probably the most hardiest bird of them all. So when it comes to our Canadian winters this far out, and we definitely want Merriam's. Now, that's not saying you might have somebody pen raise Merriam's and release them in some of the provinces and get mixed in with some of the other wild flocks. But we deter that as far as, bringing in pen raised birds or raising your own and releasing them. Try to get true wild turkeys, trap and transfer them and move them in. And like I say, New Brunswick's had them come in from, Maine and Quebec. And, I know through Quebec they've been trap and transferred and moved all around the Quebec area. But right now it's even Alberta's looking at easterns because of the Merriam's are in the southern part of the province, and they're looking at maybe easterns in the central part because they're a hardier bird and can withstand the cold in the winters.
That's a good point. Introducing something that's not going to make it. I've often wondered that. Like, why can't we have mule deer in Ontario? But if they were meant to be, they'd probably be here now. So.
Yeah, and then that's like you used to have caribou in New Brunswick at one time, woodland caribou, and I think there were woodlands, and it'd be awesome to see those caribou reestablished in New Brunswick or even in parts of Nova Scotia where they were at one time, and maybe that might be a project down the road with regards to the introduction of caribou at some point.
Want to thank you, Terry, for giving us some of your time today and helping us, with the launching the CWTF Turkey Talk podcast. It's an honor for us to be able to run with this message on your behalf. So, any final thoughts for listeners out there?
Well, I just want to thank everybody that's our supporters and our volunteers and our members. It's if it wasn't for all those three, we wouldn't be here today. And our sponsors right across Canada, and our chapters, our chapter committees, and their presidents and vice presidents and volunteers. That's who we are. We're not for profit, and we keep on keeping on walking straight through this and get through this COVID and start growing CWTF again and get more chapters going and get more kids in the outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing, and that's what we're all about. And I want to thank you, Ian and Carlin, for your time, and really appreciate it coming on board and helping out with this podcast and getting the message out on CWTF and who we are and what we're all about, because I think the lack of communications from the CWTF has been big over the last 7 years, and I think it's time now to get our message out there and get more people involved, more chapters, and more volunteers to help support.
Well, such a positive message, and anybody out there who is a turkey hunter or interested in turkey hunting, and part of your bag of tricks should be your CWTF membership. It's as important as any call, and we wouldn't be hunting turkeys if it wasn't for the efforts of you. So I personally really appreciate what you're doing, and thank you very much. And that's I think everybody out there that wants to hunt turkeys, like I said, just get your membership. $35, you get a $25 gift card, and it's arguably the best $10 you'll spend on hunting this year for sure. Carlin, any final thoughts?
Yeah, Terry, just a personal thanks, and thanks from all the viewers that don't have a voice on the show. You can comment later, but like 1,200 hours a year, 1,100 hours a year, that's a lot of time. And that just says one thing to me, and that's passion. You have the passion to help others, the passion to take the CWTF forward, and just a personal thank you. It's I'm in awe. That's a lot of time. So
makes me feel selfish,
doesn't it? So, on behalf of Ian and I and the Real Outdoor Experience, thank you so much, Terry, for being on the inaugural episode 1 of Turkey Talk. And there's lots more to come, folks. Stay tuned. We'll release these as they come available. Turkey Talk is a podcast for anybody that's tuning in for the first time. Our subjects are going to focus on turkey during that time of the year, but expand to basically conservation, enhancement of the outdoors, everything that the CWTF and other organizations like the Real Outdoor Experience stand for. So thanks so much, Terry. We certainly appreciate your time. Well,
the CWTF Turkey Talk podcast that we're hosting will be running right now through turkey season, and we've got a pretty exciting lineup. We've got some good guests lined up, so certainly look forward to getting this message out to people between now and turkey season.
Great, thank you very much, guys, and we got some giveaways to do over the next couple of months. So stay tuned and watch for the giveaways and watch for our raffles we have coming up and our membership drive. And look forward to seeing you guys in the woods this spring.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Terry.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. And don't forget, keep it real.
Keep it real, everybody.
Take care for now.
Thanks for staying with us. You've been listening to the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation's Turkey Talk podcast with your hosts, Carlin and Ian from the Real Outdoor Experience. Tune in next time as we have an amazing lineup of both guests and subjects that span across the outdoors. Don't forget, get your kids outdoors, and always keep it real. Take care for now, folks.